Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and for the 1st of March, I wanted to just share with you my the process that I go through for finding stocks that go up, and hence finding the next Nvidia. And Nvidia was a stock that I bought under a year ago, and it's tripled. I've now sold it. That's not necessarily saying it's a sell, and I'll explain in a minute why. But now I'm looking for a replacement. I'm looking for the next stock that triples. And one of the powerful things about Updata is on the Google site, you can just take this code. Updata already comes pre-configured with this ability, and you can basically go and open a chart just right away. I'm running on lots of different feeds here, but on Google Finance, if I just copy that code in, open that chart, it just pulls it straight from Google Finance. So I bought Nvidia around March. In fact, I just bought it at about 34p when it broke out. It had a good upside target on the point and figure chart. It had activated an upside target, and I sold about half my holding just here because we were starting to flatten out, and ahead of results I was thinking I'll just sell half my holding. It had already doubled, so I took half my holding off the table and the rest was effectively free. Now you could argue that I probably should have held that. I would have had a further increase, but at least I knew that I'd had my original stake back. And when we had the results recently, I decided really that it was the fact that we'd failed to make a new high was a little bit concerning, and I decided then that actually the best thing to do was to just reduce my holding still further. So I sold a further third, and I was left with a third. And over the last couple of days, in fact, we've been moving down. I've got these downside targets of 88. 14% downside. There is still a big upside target, but no medium-term upside targets. And the short term looking pretty bearish. I felt it was time to sell. I've had a good run with the stock. I've tripled my money, and it's time to get out and move on to the next thing. So now I'm looking to find the next Nvidia, and how do I go about doing that? So what I thought I'd do is I would go and trawl the full NASDAQ list. Now on the NASDAQ website you can actually just go and download the NASDAQ CSV file for the complete NASDAQ, and so by doing that I can just open that in Excel. I can take all of these codes, and there's a lot of them. We can just take a look. It's about 3,000, and this is a very big list to scan. So it's 3,200, let's say. I can take that list, and in Updata I can go and create the list by going from pasted text, and I can create this whatever feed I've got, and I can go and create that list. Now a lot of feeds have a limit on how much you can, how big a list you can create, and because that prefix on that NASDAQ code was, if we go back to the NASDAQ website there, we can see back on the Google website, we see that that's the prefix. That's the same for every NASDAQ stock. So we can now basically just put that prefix in and create the list and give it a name. Now I've already created a list, so I don't need to do that. And now what I'm interested to do is to go and scan that list. So the first thing I want to do is write a new scan. And so the way I do that, and again the key thing is that this list on Bloomberg, a maximum that you can have on Bloomberg is like 1,500 real-time instruments. On most feeds like eSignal or DTN, it's 500 instruments. Here I've got over 3,000 instruments, 3,200 instruments, which I can scan end of day to arrive at a shorter list that I can then look at on another feed. So it's really, really powerful. So the scan I'm going to look at is I'm going to create a percentage log scale, and what I want to do is just look for stocks that have got more than 50% upside. I can add another condition that the trend is up and that the risk reward ratio, but to make things quick I'm just going to scan for stocks that have got more than 50% upside. That's what I'm going to scan for. It's a double top breakout, and so the target is more than 50% away. And in fact, just to make things interesting, I can also say that I want there to be, between 50 and 200% upside. So I can add that condition, and I can save this, and I can run it. So give it a name. I've already got one here, but I'm just going to rename this one 50% upside 2. So I've actually got a scan here. And so now I can go and run that on my full NASDAQ list. Now I've got real-time lists, which are my shorter lists, and then I've got this NASDAQ full list. So if I go and calculate that, it is going to take a little time. It's quite a powerful scan. It's got 1% log scale charts take quite a bit of time to go through. So you can see here we're now running through. Now I warn you, the first time you run this it will take longer. It will take quite a bit of time because it's got to go and download all of those histories from Google Finance. But once you've done it the first time, it's there then quicker thereafter. So we can see here that we're now it's going to take us a couple of minutes. So I'm just going to pause while we do that, and then we'll come back and we'll run through the chart. Okay, so the first pass is what takes the time. And quite interestingly, we see now it's pulling in the results. It does 2 passes because the first pass is actually pulling in the to see whether we've got a double top. These grey ones are new, by the way, so any of these are new in the list. They weren't there yesterday. So it's first pass is checking if we've got a double top breakout. The second pass is the second condition where it's saying, have I got more than 50% upside to the target? So we can see that it's quite it's quite a detailed scan, this one, and there are not many scans that you can do where you can actually scan for that much upside. So it's really key that you can effectively scan for stocks with upside potential, and you can see there's a lot of them. So in 3,200 stocks, we've got to narrow it down to really what I'm trying to get to is around a top 10 for me to start looking at making some new investments. So this is my way of doing this. And of course you can do this on any list. I've just chosen to do it on the complete NASDAQ composite. You can do this on any list at all. So we can just see that we're going through, and we're going to have a substantial list to look at. And basically I'm going to have to eyeball these results, but at least I'm looking at I don't want to look at 3,200 charts. I want to actually go through and eyeball a smaller number. Now, and what I could have done is added more criteria to reduce this list further, but there's always the risk when you do that you're effectively reducing or potentially discarding stocks that you might want to look at, and there's nothing quite like eyeballing the charts. And so once we get to this point, we'll see the power, and this is all free data, so it's really valuable to be able to do this on end of day data, and then we can start to drill down to more real-time data. So out of 3,200 stocks, there's 137 that have got upside potential which is greater than 50%. So that is a good sort of number to work with. It's about 3% of the NASDAQ have that potential, and I now want to narrow that down even further. So what do I look for when I'm looking at these charts? Ultimately, what I'm looking for is stocks that basically are breaking out. I don't really like recoveries, and I want to see stocks that are mostly making new highs. So I'm just going to go through the results now and see where I can find those sorts of stocks. And you'll notice that I'm quickly negating quite a few here. I'm liking this one because we've got 2 targets to the same place. We're not quite making new highs though, but I will just tag that to a list. So what I can do is just right hand click on the chart and say, call it my hot list 1st of March, and that will be my list. And so I'm just going to now keep going through and add any of these charts to my hot list. That one's not bad, but it has run a bit far and I've only got one target. I like multiple targets. Remember, I've got quite a lot to get through here, so I'm just going to keep looking at stocks. But I take that one. I like the fact we've got multiple targets. It will come out in the next run that I go through. So I'm just going through again, just looking for breakouts. This one has broken to new highs, but the target was only one and quite a long time ago. I'm liking this. It's got multiple targets, both activated, so I'm going to add that to my watch list. And at the moment, I really don't care what these stocks are called, what they are. I just want to find stocks that are technically looking good. That's another one that looks pretty good. This is actually a big triangle pattern. So we see here we've broken out. This is what the sort of thing that I'm looking for. And if I keep going, that one, I've only got one target. I keep looking. Here I've got multiple targets, but not making new highs. So it is a little bit dubious whether we're going to see that. I want to see the break. Not enough data there, probably, and not enough targets. That one's a bit of a recovery, as is that. So I'm just going to keep going here. And we see here, this one's quite interesting. We've got above that high back in 2014. We've got multiple targets. I'll add that to my watch list. Why not? So I tag that to my hot list. Just keep going through. I'm looking till I get to the end of the alphabet. You can see that we've got a little bit of work to do. I'm liking this one, multiple targets, liking the fact we've got three targets. We're not quite making new highs, but I do like the fact that we've got multiple targets there. So I'm going to add that to my watch list as well. So keep going. Yeah, recovery, only one target. I want to see those multiple targets. That one does look interesting. It has got multiple targets, so we'll add that as well. We just keep going through. This is a bit of a process, but ultimately there's nothing quite like eyeballing the chart yourself. Good upside targets there, multiple targets, two thrusts pointing the same and making new highs. I think we'll take that one, look at that one as well. And ultimately I'm going to end up with my top 10 stocks. This is how I want to get there. Only one target there. Just going through these quickly. Not enough data. A recovery. Only one target. Only one target, not that convincing. Liking the look of that. We've got multiple targets, so I'll tag that to the watch list. Only one target there. Quite an interesting situation there. We're not quite. It is a bit of a recovery, and there is resistance, but I'll add that and take a look. You know, we can always reject these in the next round. Not enough data. Quite interesting. Only one target there though, and a recovery. That is interesting. I'll take a look at that as well. You never know. It's not making a new high, which is what I'd like to see, but I do like the multiple targets. So we're up to letter M. This is quite interesting. It's broken. We'll take a look at that as well. It's gone sideways for a few years and now breaking out. Yep, that's quite interesting. I'll add it as well. So if in doubt, just add it, and then we can come back and look at it in the next round. Liking that as well. Multiple targets. So we'll add that. Again, multiple targets, not quite making new highs, but we'll add that as well. I probably should be wanting to see new highs. Not really convincing there. This one is making new highs. We've got one very, very big target, but it's not quite activated, so, and it's only one, so keep going. It's a bit of a recovery. That is a breakout, but only one target. Netflix. Interesting that Netflix has got good upside potential. I'm going to add that just to see as well. Wow, this one has got a lot of. It's really rocketing. It's a small cap. Yahoo. It's a bit tricky when you know there's a bid, but let's add it anyway. The chart looks good. Needs to be making a new high. Go back and just take a look at that. Do like the fact that we've broken out after all that time. Take a look at that sage as well. And we're now at the end of our list. We can just take a quick check of where the list ends. Oh, we've still got a bit to go actually. So it doesn't always list these alphabetically. Should have clicked on the alphabetical list at the beginning. That looks interesting. That's a nice breakout. We'll add that. Yeah, that's also looking pretty interesting. Tesoro. Okay, we're back to the beginning now. So I now have a list that I open up. If I just go to a new quote screen, open that list and get rid of this chart scroll bar. I will have hot list 1st of March. And I do actually have a couple of multiple entries there, so I did go through the list more than once. So what I can now do is I can take these codes and I can just go copy codes, and because I have a real-time feed running, I can take those through to real-time. So if I go to new, create watch list from pasted text. In fact, what I can do to make life a little bit easier is just rank these on the code so I can see where I've got duplicates. There's not too many. Oh, that's actually solved it. And so if I go copy codes again, copy codes, and then go to quote screen, new, create from pasted text, OK. Now I'm going to do it on a feed. So I'm going to go to my IQ feed, which is a real-time feed. I'm going to paste those codes in there. And the code there's no prefix or suffix in IQ feed. And I'm going to call this NASDAQ hot list, short list. Create. I'm going to make that a real-time list. And click OK. So now it's got to go and build that list. It's going to take a little bit of time. It's going to load these the data, and we can see that once we do that, the first thing I'm going to want to do is take this across to my my template screen. So this is all now coming in real time. I can copy that across to my DTN layout, and now in my DTN layout I can start to look at these stocks a little bit more closely. Now it's loading these histories for the very first time, so I'm just going to go through and quickly have a first pass and just look at these charts. And so I've got 23 stocks, and I really want to narrow it down to which are the best few. So, and normally I write this down beside me, because now I don't actually have to and I don't need the computer just to find out which the top few are. So I'm looking for those top handful of stocks, and in that process I'm going to just go through. So if I go back to the start, we start with Arc Restaurants, and we see here that on the weekly chart, it's bullish on all three time frames, which is good. We've got this upside target of 38%, 4 and 17%. It looks okay, but it's not that clear cut. So I'm not that sold on Arc Restaurants. If I look at air transport services, this is looking pretty good. I've got quite a good multiple upside targets there, 21 and 53%. Again, 51 and 23%. And the short-term chart, I've got as much as 18% there. So on that chart, on air transport, I would say I'm quite interested in that. So that would go in my short list. Then I would go to Cadiz, and that's looking pretty good too. We're not quite breaking out here. Shortage of medium-term targets, which is a little bit worrying. It has run a lot on that weekly chart. I have got big targets there, but I'm just not convinced because of the shortage and not breaking to new highs. Celgene, if I take a look at that, just broken through on the weekly, so that's a really good recovery. On the daily chart, it's pretty positive. We've got upside targets here of 38 and 57%, and multiple targets here. Some of them not so big, but I think I probably would add that to my list as well. So I'm going to take that CLG, go through to Collector's Universe. And interestingly here, now if you don't have a real-time feed, you could just do this on end of day, but I do like having this this short-term data here. So it's not too bad. We've got two upside targets again, and it is breaking out on the short term, so maybe I would add that as well. So ultimately, I've now got three charts so far that I quite like. I'm writing these codes down as I go. I could, of course, just tag these to another watch list, and we could actually just do that. I want to go through first before I decide. There's a few downside targets there, so I kept going, not making new highs. It would be a great break when we do, but we're just not quite breaking to new highs there. First of Long Island, again, not enough targets really to feel confident there. Guarantee Federal, we're seeing here not much liquidity. I think that's probably a little bit of an issue there. The GMark Diagnostics not looking good on the medium-term chart. It's now interesting for me to have these multiple views. Again, not so good on the long-term chart. This is a recovery, and if I keep going, China Internet, this one's quite interesting, but still not breaking to new highs on that long-term chart. Now, we weren't looking at the long-term charts before, so this is quite interesting. And we're just seeing here Morningstar, not so good on the long-term chart. So again, just keep going. And this one looking a bit better. We're seeing some quite good targets there. I might take Neogen. I might have a look at that. So that's also quite interesting. And I'm just writing the codes down. Netflix, that was one that was interesting me. Now, of course, I could run this scan on smaller upside percentages, but I was really looking for that 50%. And here we see again, we've got some quite good upside targets. Just looking at that long term, the long term targets were a bit far away ago, and I'm just a little bit concerned about that on Netflix. We don't have any new targets. We need to pull back in a new target. So. Golden Dragon China portfolio, this will be interesting. a bit choppy and not making new highs. Sage Therapeutic. Uh, So we see here, this is actually looking pretty interesting, I must say. Got good upside targets, multiple upside targets through in the long term. That's one that I am quite interested to take a closer look at. And so at the moment, I've got five charts, and that one also looks pretty interesting. Sinclair Broadcast. The only thing is not enough upside targets. I mean, this one has already been met, so it's up 3.7% today. That's what happens with these sorts of stocks, but I think it might have just run a little bit far. This is the Pro Shares QQQ, looking pretty good with that big upside target. Says a lot of things for the market. Tesoro, I should say, is got a good upside target here and here. Just short term, not looking quite as good. And then Yahoo, slightly affected by the bid speculation. So at the moment, unless we get a counter bid, we are seeing buying thrust there. But I think that's basically left me with my five stocks to have a closer look at. So that was Air Transport Services. So that's my first one. Celgene is probably another one that I'm going to take a closer look at. CLT, Collectors Universe, I felt that looked quite good as well. The Neogen chart. And this Sage one, I must say I quite like the look of that Sage one. So I'm going to investigate those, look at the market caps, look at when they're releasing results, because that can often have an impact. But that's how I get to my last five. It's all about trying to find that same Nvidia chart all over again. Buying here and then hopefully in the months to come having seen a dramatic upside. You don't need too many stocks like that in your portfolio to make a big difference. So why not give this a try? If you haven't got Updata already, download it and just copy me the same way on free Google Data. You can do it.